Hi, welcome to my sewing studio. I'm Mimi, and this video is about what to do about those bulky seams when you are making Jogakbo or patchworking using the ssamsol or flat felled seaming method. I received a few comments about this, about what to do about the bulky seams. So I thought a lot about this and experimented some, did some research, and narrowed it down to 4 tips for you. For those of you who haven't seen my first video about Jogakbo, patchworking, the stitching, and the seaming, I'm going to link it here. Otherwise, here are my suggestions. The first and maybe the most important thing to do is to use lightweight fabrics. The heaviest or thickest weight I would use is like a medium weight linen. This is a medium weight linen. Don't use Kona cotton, that's way too thick, that kind of weight. A handkerchief weight linen works even better. See how this one is structured, but it's a little bit transparent. There's no stretch. This works beautifully. Um, if you can get it, silk organza or nobang, which is a traditional silk organza uh, used to make hanbok, which is a Korean traditional garment, works beautifully because it's stiff. See how it's transparent and it's light. You want to look for stiff but really lightweight fabrics that have structure. I'm excited to use this. I got this a while ago, but I just haven't had time to use it. But it's from India. It's a cotton organza, so it's got that structure, a slightly different hand, less stiff than the silk organza, but still sheer, transparent, but structured. This will work beautifully. You can also use cotton voile. This is a cotton voile. See, again, transparent but structured, and it's got a nice drape, but it's relatively stiff. You can even use cotton lawn. This is a cotton lawn. It's more densely woven, but this would work nicely as well. So first step is to choose the right fabric weight. The second thing to do to avoid bulky seams or overly bulky seams is to not align the seams on top of each other. See how this is as close as I would probably get, which is a 1/2 inch apart, because if they were on top of each other, then in doing that whole seam, it's just going to get very bulky. And if you look for images of Jogakbo on the web, you'll see that it's the seams are always offset from each other when you're joining the patchwork pieces together. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it, and it gives it that painterly freestyle look when it all comes together, which is a contrast from Western quilting, which is all symmetrical and aligned, which is the beauty of that. My third suggestion is to clip the ends of the seam. Now, I'll show you step by step what I did, but just to give you an overview, when you are just doing one seam, to leave space, I don't know, this is a little more than a 1/2 inch, but about a 1/2 inch. Start from 1/2 inch and then end with a little bit of space, 1/2 inch at the end, and then clip diagonally the excess fabric, because what's going to end up happening is that that's going to get folded in and there'll be a lot less fabric underneath. This is a seam that I sew together, clipped using the clipping method. I'll just call it my clipping method. I don't know if you could see on camera, but I can feel it. There's a lot less bulk here. And even here, it feels a little more bulky here because these are so close together, and you can see the stitching kind of went a little wonky because it's bulky. Uh, but I mean, it's going the way that the seam is made, there's going to be bulk, especially if you're not using a super lightweight fabric. I went ahead and sewed these 2 pieces together. See how I left about a 1/2 inch, a little more, on the ends. So now what I do is I take some clippers and I basically cut it diagonally and then cut another piece out. I'll show you. So I cut that, and then I cut, you'll end up with this little triangle piece on the inside, and I have also clipped that. So I've eliminated like 3 layers of fabric in there. And then I'm going to sew this piece. Well, do the same thing, leave space up there and down here as well when I'm stitching. And then this will fold over this way and then stitch down. So all of this gets enclosed and then there's less fabric. I wanted to show you before I did the second row of stitches. I ironed it after the first row, and just so you can see under here, see, that gets enclosed and there's just less fabric under there. Okay, and then I'm going to do a second row, leaving space from the start to the end. And these are the two seams that were clipped. And there's definitely a lot less bulk. I will say there is one little tricky thing to clipping is that you want to make sure that all the clip sides are facing the same way and that you stitch them the same way, meaning that it's the one, that seam is the one that gets folded over on top of the other seams. If you're sewing on the machine, the clipped seam needs to be either the wider side, so it's doing the enclosing, or it needs to get enclosed, like it needs to be up here. Because if, let's say the clip side's on the other side, it's not going to work as well if you have to fold this one over like that. See, you could technically do it, but it just makes it more difficult. You want the clipped pieces facing up when you're sewing on the machine on both sides so that it's getting enclosed and it's also doing the enclosing. If you are hand stitching, you want to iron so the clipped seams are facing up when you fold. Because what's going to happen is that you are going to whip stitch along this edge, open it up, then you're going to, iron it flat and then iron this to enclose. So these will be nice and enclosed, and so will these clipped edges. When you iron the seam allowances for hand stitching, you want to make sure that this clipped edge is not like right on the fold. You want it, a good amount past, because otherwise you'll see it poking out in the seam, the raw edge. I would, how one side has to be wider than the other side when you are hand stitching? After you iron, if one side isn't narrow enough to get enclosed by the other side, go ahead and trim it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and trim this a little bit right now. I'm going to hand stitch now just to show you. One thing that somebody had mentioned in the comments is that they like to just do a few back stitches because that also eliminates bulk. So, and I tried it and it does hold. So basically I don't pull the thread all the way through, and then I'll do, it's actually faster too than doing the knot. So there's one, two, I'll do like 3 whip stitches in the same place, and it seems to hold pretty well and it's faster. So if that works for you, try it. Okay, I just wanted to show this part because this is where I clipped. This is usually where it's pretty bulky and I'm hand stitching. So I'm able to sew through it pretty easily. It does feel a lot less bulky than if I weren't to clip it. So this way, if you're using a medium weight linen, this is a good option if you find that your seams are just too bulky. But if you're using a really lightweight fabric, I wouldn't bother clipping. I'm coming to another bulky part. It's a little bulky here where the stitching is, but nothing too crazy. I'm almost coming towards the end, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a space at the end to clip. And I'm going to go ahead and do that back stitching thing because it's so much faster. I'm going to do it 3 times, maybe 4. And then pull through here. Okay. Open it. And I will iron this flat like that, and then iron this fold over, and then iron it there, and then whip stitch again on that side. Before I finish the seam, I wanted to give my last suggestion. If you are having issues with bulky seams when patchworking, is not doing the ssamsol seam because it's innately a bulky seam. Try making jogakbo with only the whip stitch. Now, this will give you raw edges on the back side, but it will be a lot less bulky to patchwork. And I've seen artwork pieces that, you just trim it nicely and it just hangs. You're not going to wash it. And it's just really purely decorative. And I've seen art pieces made this way without the ssamsol seam. And it's not lined because it's art. Or I've also seen it made with this kind of seam and just the whip stitch, and it would be backed with something so that you don't see the raw edges. So it's a little bit nicer finish. But yeah, there's definitely a lot less bulk if you just want to try that way, and or you don't mind the raw backing because it's decorative, it's a wall hanging, or you are okay with lining it. To make the patchwork just with the whip stitch, just iron. Um, they don't have to be different widths, just the same width seam allowance. Iron them, and then you sandwich them together like this, and then just whip stitch. And then you patchwork that way. I hope you found those helpful, and let me know in the comments if you do anything special for bulky seams. Thanks for watching.